Alright, welcome back to the channel, or welcome if you're new. So you're going to notice that I have these ugly black and yellow lines around the deck list. Unfortunately, I am currently in the process of shuffling some cards around, and a result of this is that I don't have all the cards on this account at the moment. That will be remedied shortly, but in the meantime, I have made a few changes that I'd like you to be aware of since the last video. I actually have dropped the Fiery Confluence, the 2 red sorcery that allows you to destroy an artifact, deal 1 damage to all creatures, deal 2 damage to each opponent, and you can choose to do each of those things in any combination you like 3 times. I dropped that card, and at the time of playing the games that you'll see, I was running, I think, Unholy Heat in the slot. I just wanted a nice cheap removal. I didn't need such an expensive removal spell, I felt. I have lots of mass artifact removal and control. There's still 4 mass artifact to kill. Vandal Blast, Shattering Spree, Life Force, and then of course Karn himself, who shuts down artifacts. And then we've got K Command, Daretti, and a bunch of other Anger's Rampage, Abrade. We've got lots of lower cost artifact kill spells, and that's mostly what that card was in there for. It's just not a great card in your opening hand. Unlike Chandra, who functions as also card draw and mana source, which we're much happier to see. That card just was only removal and sometimes just kind of sitting dead in a hand where you'd have just way more artifact kill than you needed. So I've replaced it with, currently at least, I tried Unholy Heat for these videos, but actually the card that it is today is Praetor's Grasp. This is a card that allows you to search your opponent's library, exile it face down, and then they shuffle and you look at it. You may play it for as long as it remains exiled. That doesn't necessarily mean this turn. It does not say without paying the without where you can use mana of any colors. You cannot, like, you can steal an opponent's mana drain, but you would need something along the lines of a Mox Opal and a Springleaf Drum to play the card, because you do not get to, like I said, cast it with mana of any color. But more than likely, the kind of cards that you're going to be stealing with Praetor's Grasp, typically you're just going to use it to Demonic Tutor their Soul Ring or Crypt right out of their deck. Or if they're playing a black deck, you might, for example, Grasp and just go steal their Necropotence. And, you know, what this amounts to is that not only are you Demonic Tutoring through your opponent's deck for the best card for the situation, but you're also removing the possibility of them tutoring or drawing it naturally. But also, you can use Praetor's Grasp in a very funky way, which is that if your opponent plays a card like Imperial Seal and you Praetor's Grasp them, they have to shuffle their library, so you can not only take their best card, might be the card they sealed for, or it might be something different, but either way, for example, you might just Praetor's Grasp for a strip mine. You're also going to force them to shuffle, which means the card they tutored for gets countered, and that's a funky little play you can make as well. So they go first turn Imperial Seal, you go Dark Ritual Grasp, go get Soul Ring, and shuffle away whatever it was that they tutored for. You might just win the game on the spot. Pretty powerful effect for a relatively inexpensive cost. And you notice we're just adding more and more tutoring effects right now, deck control options. So this card may ultimately become the 3 casting cost card that I'm waiting for from the next set, which is the one that produces treasures and cards and creatures for life. I'm definitely going to be testing that out. It will probably be tested in that slot, but for now it is Praetor's Grasp, and I don't feel bad about that card whatsoever in this deck. So in the meantime, there were a couple of other changes. There's no more artifact lands, and the basic lands have been tweaked. There's now a snow-covered swamp, a snow-covered mountain, a basic swamp, and that's it for basic lands, so you got to be cognizant of that when you're using your Vista. There's no artifact lands. Instead, there is the Barbarian Ring and Cabal Pit. So we actually got 2 more removal spells, 2 more removal effects hiding in the mana base this time instead of in the proper deck. These are basically just spells that would be like 1 casting cost spells hiding over here, or 2 drops essentially, as you have to use 1 land and use the land drop for the turn. But so these are removal cards that also tap for mana. Essentially, they are like Shatter Skull Smashing in the way that we have 3 lands that act as removal here. We've got the Ring, we've got Smashing, we've got Cabal Pit. All of these are lands that also kill creatures, and that's great for us because we the deck's very compact, and there aren't a lot of free mana sources to work with, that are free slots rather that haven't been already accounted for. So very nice there. Of course, you do need threshold to use those cards, but it's not, generally speaking, too hard to get threshold with this deck. Something to pay attention to if you are on a Underworld Breach or Yawgmoth's Will turn, though, is that you want to use things in the right order, or you might turn your threshold off and then you can't use them. So pay attention to that, but otherwise I feel pretty good about those cards making the cut. And the other thing that allows us to do, because we now have 98 independently different cards, is we can actually run Tainted Pact. And so Tainted Pact has made its way into the deck as well. And what's really nice about Tainted Pact, of course, if you treat the Pact like a like a demonic tutor in this deck, you may pact yourself to death. It's possible to do that. What you want to do is treat Tainted Pact as a impulse that will surprise you when you stop. So you just use Pact. As soon as you have some spare mana, you can use Pact. And then all you do is you stop as soon as the card quality of what you reveal is good enough. It doesn't have to be the perfect card. It doesn't have to be the best. It just has to be good enough. Now, if it turns out that there's only one card that will save you, you're probably not imagining your solution correctly. But if it is the case, then clearly you have to use it like a demonic tutor, or use the Pact until you hit a demonic tutor or something, and then tutor for what you want. Maybe you Pact into Vampiric and Vampiric into the card you want, just to be sure that you know, if it's too far down, you could lose. So that's a way you can use the card as well. But overall, just having access to Tainted Pact means we have a little more deck consistency. We have a little bit more, essentially, mana. You can just Pact on turn 2 and flip until you hit a mana source and just stop right there and call it good. So this acts as a kind of pseudo demonic tutor / impulse effect, and I think that's pretty good. So yeah, the card makes the cut, and I am completely forgetting what card I took out for it. It is essentially in the slot where the Wishclaw Talisman would have been, or maybe the Praetor's Grasp is in the slot. It's hard to say at this point. We've also got Plunge in the slot, so it's hard to say exactly at this point where it fits together. But, oh, I remember. I'm sorry. I had Gamble in here, and Gamble actually is incredibly frustrating for this deck. It turns out that I think my intuition about Gamble being really good on turn 1 is probably accurate. Gamble allows you to have an opening hand that could potentially win the game more easily. But what I didn't consider is a couple of reasons why you don't want to run it. And it's not so much that scenario. It's that you don't always draw it on turn 1. This deck likes to dump its hand. So if you dump your hand and draw it, it's useless. Darn near useless. 2, if you're playing against serious disruption decks like Force of Will and counter heavy decks, and decks like this with lots of hand destruction, Gamble gets worse. So in the match you needed the most deck control is when it's the worst, because those are the hardest decks to beat. And so a card that's at its best against decks we already beat is not a card that I want in this deck. So that card just came out, and that became Tainted Pact. Tainted Pact, on the other hand, quite a bit better against either one of those, because you can like, if opponent duresses and you have Tainted Pact in hand, you can Pact. You can just let them duress you, and they kind of have to take the Pact, because if they don't take the Pact, you're just going to use that to go get something that's going to punish them for not taking it. And so they kind of have to take it, and this card acts as effectively a 0 mana counterspell for a duress. I mean, it turns duress into peak. You know, they get to look at your hand. They have to take the Pact. You basically counter it for 0 and say, oh, you can look at my hand, but you can't do anything about it. Unless the card in your hand is just so good that, you know, like if you're holding the Necropotence, they kind of have to take it. But otherwise, you know, you can be holding a Pact, and they don't take it, and you Pact, and you hit Praetor's Grasp, and you grasp them for their Necro, or you Necro, or you hit Ad Nauseam, or whatever. So anyway, those are the changes there. The lands, the searching. I think it's really good stuff. And I've got some games for you, but before we do that, I want to show you in the last 7 days, looking at all results. I'm not going to go through every game here, but I will go through this kind of series on the final, like on the 21st. But what I want to talk about is, if you look, I've counted from the bottom to the top, the list that I have, it's exactly 30 games on my screen. So in 30 games, in the last 30 games, I lost exactly one game, this one here against I'm a Donkey. And then if I roll back to some earlier versions, so stopping right about there where I think that's the last game I saw from 5-color bad stuff. So another 30 games, and I lost one there. So that's a 2 to I'm a Donkey, and 1 to 5-color bad stuff. So that's 3 total losses. 2 to the same player, 1 to the other player. 3 and 60. And then if you scroll back, we have to get Kernway here towards the bottom there. Yeah. And then there's another 30 games, and you'll see 2 losses to Hash1 and no other losses. And then if you go back about 10 games, this is actually the 11th game, I think, you'll see about 10 more wins. And so what it ends up being is that roughly in the last 100 games, the deck has won 95. And this is while advertising for cEDH and playing against some of the strongest cEDH players, as well as playing against players like fans of the channel who know the deck list, like 5-color bad stuff, and so forth. So fantastic representation for how the deck is doing, and I think it's just going to continue to get better from here. In the meantime, I have some great games on the 21st. One thing I want to talk about with this deck is that while there are games that are just gross and you just dump mana, play Tevesh, Szat, and win the game, and that's exciting and fun, I don't want to give you the impression that's all this deck does. This deck is actually very thought-provoking gameplay, and you can play some really long, drawn-out slogs. You can play again. You can come from behind. You can basically have the kind of games. Think of this deck as essentially Brea, without counterspells. With one counterspell, you have Deflecting Swat, where Brea would sometimes play games where you just never drew a counter, and all of your game was about generating mana, removing your opponent's threats, and producing threats of your own. And you wouldn't get a counter until the end of the game, and you'd finish a game with a counterspell in hand. In Brea, having never played one, it's exactly how this deck plays out. You're running out tons of mana, disrupting your opponent, refilling your hand, and pouring more disruption in, and then going for a setup that they can never recover from, whatever that setup happens to be. Crucible, Strip Mine, Lock, Death Cloud, whatever the case is. Just a Karn that is completely crushing them because they're all artifact based. Whatever the case is, that's the type of thing that you're trying to set up here, and that's exactly how the deck plays out. And what that means is that the more skillful among you, or the more skilled you are at bringing out your full potential by running reps through this deck, the better the results are going to be, because the better your choices will be. And if you notice, there are a lot of cards in here that allow you to make choices, a lot of choices. That could be choices about how you're investing your mana, like off your ritual, choices about which card from your opponent's hand to select, choices about what mode and what targets to use in a K command, when to deflect, how many of the Necropotents, what to tutor for, which version of your Planeswalker to use, whatever. Choices. Everywhere you look, it's choices. This deck is a skill-based deck. Even though it's a degenerate deck, it should be banned probably, because Partners is unfair. But it is super fun to play and super busted. So with that in mind, I recommend that if you like skill-tested games, but also you like doing the most powerful things possible, this is probably the deck for you. You should definitely take a look at it. But we're going to run through these games starting on the 21st, I think. I really want to run through the games on the 20th and the 21st. I just don't know if I have time for it. I think I might. So I'm going to try to go through these games starting on the 20th, and you will see as fast as I can, and we'll try to fit as many of them as we can into this video. And because not every game, first of all, I haven't reviewed these, so there might be broken games. There might be games where I think that I'm going to make a play. It turns out I make a different play, so the me of today is thinking about the game differently than the me at the time. And I'll evaluate those and tell you whether or not I think that I actually made a mistake or not. And also we can go through these and we can look at these. There will be games that work out and just aren't very interesting. But finally, buried within here, I know for a fact there are some really interesting, really cool games, and there should be some stuff that you're going to enjoy here. So let's dig in now, starting with this game against Trothgar. I wonder if that's a reference to Brothgar, the guy, the YouTuber. Anyway, not sure, but anyway, oh, it's Torthgar, it's not Trothgar. Okay, I'm just reading it wrong. Anyway, I've got a very, playing Atraxia, I've got a very acceptable hand. It's a little off. It looks better than it is. It's missing black mana, right? It's got Grav and Cairns. But I can go with Saga turn 1. I did win the die roll, so I can go first turn Saga, Vault, and then do something like unmask my opponent, and then figure it out from there. Maybe I stop on Vault, and then on turn 2 I play land and dump a bunch of mana into like a Chalice, jump the Chalice into a Torque, make a robot, something along those lines, and then shortly after that the Saga can go get a Mox Opal, and the Opal will give me the black mana that I need at that point to play Tevesh Szat. Alternately, if I draw black in between then and now, the Saga can go get Skull Clamped, which will just draw me a ton of cards. I can start drawing off a Rogue right away, and then I can later draw off a Tevesh Szat once I get him on board. So this is a very good hand, but it's not as good as it looks, and my opponent concedes. Okay, well. Alright, so we'll move on to the game against 5-color bad stuff, and I know for a fact that I misplay this. I know for a fact that I misplayed this game multiple times. I actually mentioned, like, what is wrong with me in chat at some point. But you'll see I still have Fiery Confluence in here. This would be Praetor's Grasp now. And, of course, this hand would be a little bit more interesting if it were Grasp, but not interesting enough, I don't think, to keep. It does have Deflecting Swat and Shattering Spree that makes the deck, makes the hand interesting. It might be interesting enough to keep, honestly, now that I think about it, if this were Praetor's Grasp, because then I could tutor for my opponent's Soul Ring and do some really good stuff. But as is, this hand is very fair, and I decided to ship it. I ended up with this one. This is a lot riskier, but at least I can disrupt and then accelerate. And you can see I still have Volta Whispers in here, which looks good with the Opal, but as it turns out, it's not so good. If this were Cabal, the Cabal land, the creature removal land, it would be better here. I'd be less vulnerable to artifact removal, and I would just mulligan away the Opal and have I'd be perfectly content to keep the hand that I have. But with it being the Opal, I'm more enticed to mulligan something else away, so out of this pile I decided to throw away the Rampage. And that may end up costing me. Alright, so I'm going to lead off, and I go ahead and get Badlands here, and I take a peek at my opponent's hand, and I see Vandal Blast, Counterspell, Swords, and then these cards here. Had this Opal been mulliganed, me having the artifact kill and keeping that, right, instead of the Opal, and this being a non-artifact land, I would have no targets for Vandal Blast, and I could have Inquisitioned away the Counterspell, and I would have been much better off if I could have taken away the Counterspell. Alright, opponent leads off with Scalding Tarn here and makes no fetch, which is interesting. I run out the Opal, the Vault, and Demonic Tutor. Still, my opponent does not fetch in response. This is a huge misplay. I now have Opposition Agent on board. This is terrible for my opponent here, but he sniffs out the opposition, he doesn't know the deck list, and realizes he made a boo-boo. And so he doesn't fetch. And then draws or had a command tower, which means he can Swords to Plowshares here. Again, Wasteland, of course. So right now the opposition agent, keeping the Opal looks good here. But again, I would have had the Counterspell out of hand. He would have had a Vandal Blast with no use. And my Demonic Tutor would have been for a different target than Crypt. And I'd be fine. Like, for example, Lotus. And I would just have my Commander in play. Because I could have pushed it through a Counterspell. So, alright. So here I'm getting too cocky, I'm going to make the worst play of my life here. Not my life, but I'm going to make the worst play of the day here, probably, hopefully. I should just Wasteland Command Tower. If my opponent sacks in response or whatever, I can flash out Opposition Agent. If he doesn't sack, I can flash out, okay, let's back up. The first thing I need to do, right, is not cast Coalition Relic. Because if I cast Coalition Relic in response, my opponent can sack, and if I flash out the Opposition Agent, he can plow. So I have to Wasteland first. So I should Wasteland first, and then I can flash out Opposition Agent if my opponent sacks. Except, that's completely asinine. I've totally lost track of what my deck should be doing. Wasteland the Command Tower, and just play the freaking commander right here and just win the game, right? That's the play. The play is Wasteland my opponent and Wasteland. But no, I go for the trickiest play of all. Play Coalition Relic, get the Relic down, then Wasteland my opponent, and then flash out Opposition Agent. Opponent, of course, he's got me pegged on an Opposition Agent correctly, and so he just plays, he sacks in response. I can't flash out the agent, it'll just get plowed. Counterspells my freaking Relic, and I'm done for the turn. Obviously, still hoping to get some value out of opposition agent, a swiftly dwindling prospect, right? And I draw the useless gamble. This card would be tainted pact, and I'd be totally fine here, despite how boneheaded I was this game. Of course, I'm going to kill the command tower now. I gamble trying to get a Dust Bowl into my hand. I fail. And from here, I have boxed myself into basically being unable to win this game. I play Rog here. I have him pegged on a counter. I'm pretty sure he has a counter. I know I've taken the counter spell, but sometimes you just got to read in the same way that my opponent had read me. And I'm going to summarize this game for you because I think this one's bugged too. I have completely thrown this game away, played like complete crap, and I lose a game I deserve to lose because my opponent has played as perfectly as he can, and it gets rewarded. Ultimately, I do make an attempt to play into 2 blue mana, he mana drains, and I lose. Just the dumbest possible play. Don't play like that. Don't be like that. If you get the chance to play the game, and you can stick your freaking commander, right? Like, win the game. Just, God, it was horrible. All right, so game 2. Fortunately, he's kind enough to play me some more, so I obviously have to mulligan. This hand doesn't do anything. And incidentally, this deck mulligans better than other decks. The problem is this deck is essentially a combo deck where the combo is play your commander. Wish I'd remember that last game, but anyway. And you can... because you're mulliganing to 7 each time and then throwing away the worst cards, you're just mulliganing looking for enough mana to get your commander into play on turn 1 or turn 2, or to disrupt your opponent long enough to get your commander into play. And what that means is that you can mulligan very aggressively. In fact, you could mulligan all the way down to 2, and if you're 7 cards, but you get all 7. So if all 7 cards were like Jeweled Lotus, City of Traders, whatever, you keep those 2 cards of the 7, and those 2 cards are game winning. So that is this deck, and any other deck that also is essentially a combo deck, can and should mulligan much more aggressively than a control deck, because you don't care about the cards. You care about mana and getting your commander on board. Your commander will give you the cards. Again, I wish I had remembered that last game. So luckily, I do redeem myself by making a 180 play here. My opponent's seen my hand and plays a Mox, and then plays a Imperial Seal. Obviously, my opponent does not have Counterspell in hand, or they wouldn't make this play. So this tells me all I need to know, at least of what's going on in their hand right now. And what that means is that almost certainly my opponent went and got removal. For example, they might have got a Vindicate or something like that for the commander that they expect me to play this turn. And because they're really low on cards and expect me to play a commander, I'm going to actually change gears because my opponent Gitaxian probed me. When I draw this Kolaghan's command, that changes things. So the way I decided to run this out is I get a Badlands here. I am going to Ritual, play a Mana Vault, and then run the mana into a Talisman, and then play K-Command, killing Mox Diamond and making my opponent discard, in this case a Grim Monolith. Fantastic. And now my opponent has only 2 cards in hand, and 1 card on top, and I'm expecting the top card to be removal, probably something that costs 3 mana. Could be like, I guess there's 2 mana removal too. There's like Abrupt Decay. No, that won't do it. But the other one, the one that allows me to get a basic land. There's like Dreadbore. There's the one that I use, the Edict effect, Anger's Rampage. There's a few other cards. So there's lots of 2-drop removal my opponent could have, or even 1 casting cost removal for my commander here. And I'm expecting that's what they draw off the top of their library here. But I have flipped the script on them, right? Alright, so only good though, because I have more fast mana and I've got even more mana over here, so I can get my commander out and rebuild shortly. Or had. So my opponent thought seizes away the Grim and plays a fetch land, and I'm worried now that the card that he might have gotten was Necropotence, but not super worried, because I feel like the right play for my opponent would not to get Necropotence and try to race me. The right play for them would have been to get removal and deal with my commander, and then win the game some other way. So we're gonna draw here. Unfortunately, man, the click of the mouse and then nothing happens. It's so frustrating. Like, next. Can we go? God, I'm just gonna hit play on this. I don't know why Magic Online is such a pain in the butt. I think. Can we go? God, I think we might be in bugged game territory. I don't think I drew a swamp here, but at any rate, I did. I do know that this play here was Expedition Map, and I could choose to get Ancient Tomb here and then just get my commander into play next turn, possibly. I could get like a strip mine and take out the Bayou, but I decided what I'm going to go get is actually there's this Saga here. This is going to get my commander out shortly, but it also gives me a either artifact mana to run the commander out or a clamp to clamp the tokens off the commander and draw cards right away. Because I'm thinking that my opponent has removal as their last card, and if he gets the mana to cast it or has the mana to cast it, if I get clamp with Saga to prepare myself for my commander, next turn I use a land to untap. Like I play a land, this ticks up to 2. I make a robot at the end of their turn. During my upkeep, I just untap Mana Vault, go get clamp, play Rogue, and clamp him with one mana with the Mana Vault unused. So I'd have a robot, an untap Mana Vault, and I would clamp Rogue, depending on if I draw a land or not. So that's kind of what I'm thinking that I'm going to do. And when I don't see a Necropotence hit, I'm now almost 100% certain that my opponent did, in fact, get removal. So we'll draw for the turn. I draw a Braid. Not super helpful here at the moment. But remember, Clamp with Rog is like draw 2, and then you can replay Rog for 2 and then draw 2 more. So it's a draw 4. So Clamp does not require you to get Tevesh Szat to be awesome. It can be awesome a lot sooner than that. So we're going to pause here and kind of run through exactly what I was envisioning for these next few turns. All right, so my opponent's fetches here and then plays Narset. Maybe that's what he got to shut down my commander. That is interesting. But if that's the case, you know, I've got a solution right there. So he Narsets into Nature's Claim. So he's got Nature's Claim and one unknown. Now I don't know if the card's removal or if it was the Narset actually that my opponent got. But anyway, I'm going to take the Narset off the table with a Construct. And he had to minus it. If he left it at 5 here, I can bring this up to 5 really easily by making a robot and then fetching an artifact. So that wouldn't have helped. All right, so because of the Narset though, and the ability to take it off I'm thinking that might be what he got. So because that might be what he got, and because he's got the Nature's Claim in hand, and I need to use my mana right away, I'm planning to not untap the Mana Vault, you know, untapping it into a claim, and we'll just draw and see what we get here. All right, so I don't get anything necessarily crazy here, but I will get to float some mana, get a Soul Ring, play the old commander here, play Rog, draw 3 cards. Oops, you idiot. I haven't actually attacked the Narset yet. Such a huge F up here. I'm just like, yeah, what am I doing? Like, I'm like, what am I doing? You know, so just horrible gameplay. I feel so sheepish and embarrassed by that play. Anyway, I'm going to get Narset off the table now and play a Ragavan. And I mean, still, this is a very awesome position to be in against my opponent. I mean, if my opponent, I know one's claim, and so, you know, they can kill like the Soul Ring or the Construct, either way. And the other card's an unknown, probably removal, but then, you know, do you kill Tevesh or do you kill Rag? It's not as clear-cut as it might seem. I do think the answer is probably Tevesh, but opponent decides that the answer is Rag. That might be exactly what he tutored for. All right, discarding Consecrated Sphinx there, as opposed to sacking a creature because he didn't have a creature to play, but that makes sense. This card's probably not coming out this game, frankly. So kills my Soul Ring, kills my Rag, does not kill. I think Soul Ring and Tevesh might have been correct, but honestly, like, it's a bad position to be in regardless. And now I can start Ancestraling finally. Draw an opposition agent here is pretty nice. So because I drew the agent, I'm actually not going to play the Rog rather. I'm just gonna Rag and Rog, man, it's messing my head up. I'm just going to make the Thralls and sit on the opposition agent, hit my opponent, and then this way I'll just start drawing next turn. It's fine. So I'm waiting one more turn. Of course, you could draw removal for Tevesh Szat, and that would be a bummer, but not the end of the world, frankly. Instead, my opponent just draws and passes. Okay, so we don't know what that is. Could be a counter. I was testing Cabal Therapy here. Now, this is now Praetor's Grasp. So we'll see how that goes. But at any rate, here it of course ends up being decent. I'm going to go ahead and draw some cards. Find a plunge. Still no mana. Attack with a construct here. And I'm not even going to play the therapy because I have opposition agent here, and I'm hoping to flash it out and get my opponent. But if they don't do anything, I don't waste the turn because I have plunge, so I can actually plunge here. Question is how much life do I want to pay, to tutor basically. Opponent impulses in response. That's fine in some ways, but it does take them off counter potentially. That might not have been the best choice because that just gives me a lot of information. Either way, though, I plunge for through all of these cards. So plunge for 7. I can only take one of these. The rest get exiled. Easy choice. My opponent just impulsed. I'm going to take the rest and then use the rest to feed information to a Cabal Therapy and rip my opponent's hand to pieces and draw more cards with my commander. So I lose all these cards and do not care at all. Just take the very mana efficient duress. Draw a mana crypt for the turn. It's just gross. So we'll go ahead and duress. I see Dreadbore. So maybe this is the card that he got, or maybe this is the card he just impulsed into. It's hard to say. Could have had it the whole time, I don't think so, though, because, no, this is the card he impulsed into because he would have played it last turn. So, yeah, just impulsed into a Dreadbore, and I just protected my commander. One black counter spell, basically, for impulse. All right, so we'll play Mana Crypt retroactively, right? Cabal Therapy away the last card in my opponent's hand, the Dreadbore. Make some more cards, put some more cards in my hand, rather, and swing in with the token, the current construct. I mean, it's crazy that my opponent's 5-color deck has not actually searched yet, because they're going to have 10 fetch lands. It's going to have all the tutors. I guess he did search with Imperial Seal and once earlier, but you'd expect a very high volume of search to come out of a deck like that. I would expect this opposition agent to be good. Dak fading off the top, a little bit annoying, but not horrible. I've got it covered, right? We're just going to deal with it. Unlike games in Brea, this is not backbreaking for me. I'm just going to abrade and cause that to fizzle, and then attack Dak and kill it right away. So we'll go ahead and untap for the turn. Drawing the land here is really nice because I can get the Lotus. This is going to fuel up a gigantic Death Cloud. In the meantime, it's going to lock my opponent's search options down again under an opposition agent and kind of hide the fact that I have it a little bit. I'm sure my opponent's a little suspicious by now. But I have used mana at the end of his turn, and so it is a bit sneaky for me to have the opposition agent here. It's not clear that I have it, and 5-color bad stuff must agree because, or maybe just because he's realizing the game's slipping away. He has to go for the Fabricate and hope that I don't have what he thinks I have. Of course I do, and with that, my opponent scoops it up. Of course, had he not scooped it up, we get to do a nasty Death Cloud for 3, killing 3 lands. We get a plush to Tevesh Szat and just kill 3 thralls and 3 of our lands, and then just obviously, I mean, I don't know what else to say other than that game is over and we move on to the next game. All right. So not misplaying that game as badly, and also not trying to gamble is nice. All right, so still having the Cabal Therapy here. I mean, it's a good card, and I'm not unhappy to have it. And it turns out we're playing the mirror match. So, I mean, I like testing cards out. I'm not saying Cabal Therapy doesn't belong in this deck. It very well might, but it's also possible that Praetor's Grasp, and I think it probably is the case that Praetor's Grasp, while slower, is so much more powerful that it probably makes more sense to use it. I mean, you can Praetor's Grasp into like a Mind Twist, for example, and almost any deck running black should have Mind Twist. If they're not playing black, there are other things you can get that are just as nasty. Therapy is a good addition, but it's not a great addition necessarily. It does work out here. I'm going to blind name Soul Ring. It's one of the best cards my opponent can have. No Soul Ring is forthcoming. Unfortunately, there's a Duress and a Vandal Blast. Because there's both a Duress and a Vandal Blast, but my hand is all mana and very resistant to Duress, but not to Vandal Blast, I am going to go ahead and Rog Flashback Therapy. This is why Therapy is decent in this deck, is once again, it's just abuses a 0-drop. Although, as I said, I don't think it necessarily makes the cut. But here we get to, why does it do that? let's go ahead and look a second time at these cards, and then we'll tick off the Vandal Blast from the opponent's hand. Because while I could play I could hold Jeweled Lotus and try to hide it from the Vandal Blast and such, taking the duress. I feel like this is just fine. I will leave the duress. I will take the Vandal Blast, and then what that means is that while I could have hid the Lotus and whatever, then the opponent would still have Vandal Blast in his hand, and then it gets really hard to deploy from there. This way, they duress one of the cards, but I can deploy the rest, and I don't have to worry about a VB breaking my back later. So I think this makes more sense to me. So I get duressed, and of course, my opponent wisely chooses the Chalice. If they don't choose the Chalice, I get to go. If they choose the Shop, I get to go. The Power Stone, I get to go Workshop, land, Chalice on 2, Commander, and Rock and Roll. They take that, I get to still play the Power Stone, or I can play the Commander here. They're both quite good. And then wait a turn to play the Power Stone, or I could just like do it all. Here, if I play the Workshop, so if I ritual out the Commander, I have 1 black floating. I could play a land and then cast Rog, and then draw 3 immediately, and then just do the Shop Works Power Stone thing in a turn. That's an option. So there's a lot of routes this hand could take. So I'm not sure which one I chose. I do play the Searing Step here. Okay, so I play very conservatively, it looks like, and just run out the Tevesh and make some guys. And then what this means is that if my opponent has gets removal for Tevesh, like top deck's removal, I can follow up with the Power Stone, and then immediately, the turn afterwards, I can ritual out the Tevesh Szat. So I'm probably fine there. Or something along those lines, something like that, right? Alright, so opponent plays the known Blood Corrupt. Smart opponent, playing cards I know about whenever possible over cards that I don't. And then has a Liquid Metal Torque card I did not know about, but this makes sense though, because can't play the Power Stone or the Will, doesn't want to play the Chalice because he can Will and make a giant Chalice, so this just makes sense. Alright, so we'll pass for the turn. Alright, I get the Workshop down, I draw some cards off Tevesh Szat, I see by Force. Nothing too exciting going on here, so we'll go ahead and just play the Soul Ring, basically. And then replay Rog and pass for the turn. And from my opponent's draw, plays a Marsh Flats. Again, he can't disguise what is known. I could have tried to Ritual just to give my opponent 1 less mana with Jessica's Will, but I actually am hoping that he wills into playing Chalice into Power Stone, and then I can just blow it all up. That's kind of what I want to happen. I don't want to give him too much mana though, because obviously I don't want him to will into something too crazy. Opponent could will into Tevesh Szat here, and that might actually be the play that he should make, but we will see. I do have the first Tevesh though, so it's not as much of a threat against me. And in the meantime, I kept it low, right? Spending 3 mana to get 4, it's not the worst thing for me. I do think though that my opponent made a mistake here by playing Marsh Flats. You should play your land after you Jessica's Will. I don't know what the reasoning for this was, but it turns out to be disappointing, I imagine, because my opponent now has 1 less card in hand and hit triple land, a horrible whiff with the Will, but can't even take advantage of a single one of them because he played the Marsh Flats first. So kind of a big mistake there. Is there a way I can hide this exile? Oh, it's a special exile zone. I can't hide it yet. It'll disappear from the screen in a moment. Anyway, so he goes for the Tevesh Szat play and then draws 3 cards and has, I believe, no other play for the turn. So opponent has 6 cards in hand, but should have 7, right? Should have played one of these lands that ends up getting exiled. Should have played whatever and got a dual land and had 7 cards in hand is what should have happened. Alright, so now I've got to deal with Tevesh Szat, and my deck just miracles up the perfect solution. Shatterskull smashing is smashing the solution to this problem. I'll go ahead and draw some extra cards here. Play a Mox Opal, which is actually not currently in the on position. These are the cards I know about in his hand. I'm still tracking minus the Jessica's Will, so we'll go ahead and make that a little bit smaller. This is my opponent's hand, known hand cards. Alright. So I have to ritual to get enough mana to do this, but yeah, I can just go ahead and kill the commander. It works out quite perfectly, and that is it for the turn. I don't have enough mana to Vandal Blast as well, and possibly wouldn't. By holding both of these, I know my opponent has 2 artifacts. If they do have a duress effect, they can take one of these but not both, and then that's kind of making those 2 cards no good for them. Opponent imprints the Toxic Deluge under their Chrome Mox, which is great for them. Deluge is almost a brick in the mirror match. Quite frequently does nothing. And then plays Karn the Great Creator. So this will stop being a Soul Ring. This was never on in the first place. It sucks. In fact, my opponent's smart enough to know to make this a creature and kill it. So it does suck. But I've already gotten a ton of value out of the Lotus. He's taken the Chalice, and the Opal never did anything. So really, he killed my Soul Ring. It's disappointing. Future mana, which is a little frustrating. And could potentially start attacking Tevesh Szat with like a Torque or something. But for the most part, this is fine, or at least I think it's fine until I realize, and my opponent cleverly displays to me, the problem with my situation here, which is that during my upkeep, when I cannot use this, my opponent turns this into an artifact creature, an artifact, and Karn turns it off. And so now I don't have access to my commander. And now I've got a really slow hand. Not good. I do, fortunately, draw Duretti, some more interaction, some more board presence. That's great. And here I can just play said Duretti. And I can't use the Power Stone, of course. So if you're wondering why I'm not by forcing my opponent, that's why. Decide to go with the Duretti plan and just turn the useless, and fetch here. Vandal Blast away the Liquid Metal Torque in order to get my commander on board for the next turn. And then make a construct because, this is useless, but it's still a permanent that I can sacrifice later, and possibly if I can deal with Karn, this will be useful. So I don't feel like between these two cards, if my opponent somehow focuses on killing Duretti, I can still kill more artifact mana, and that's totally fine with me because I'm actually holding it because I know about 2 cards in his hand, which is now represents half my opponent's hand size. So, and if Duretti dies here, but not Tevesh Szat, and Tevesh Szat goes active, then I'm back into game-winning card drawing mode, and that's fine. Alright, for my opponent's turn, he draws a Thran Dynamo. Amazing. Thran into Warren. Literally put 5 mana into play that turn, which is just crazy. Has 6 mana in play in non-land sources, and just pluses Karn and doesn't do anything with it. Of course, I have the Duretti in play, and I can kill like the Thran here, but then that means he's still got the Worn Power Stone, so 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Can still get potentially his commander to play next turn, or would be able to. I mean, he's assuming maybe that the Vandal Blast was all I had, but of course we know that's not the case. We'll just make a construct here. That can't be a good feeling for my opponent. I'm going to draw some cards off of the Thrall. I find Feed the Swarm, Mox Diamond, which I can't use for anything. And then I'm just going to buy Force, boom, boom, boom. Hopefully not getting... This was a little foolish. What I should have done was buy Force first to see if... well, I guess there's no real answer here. If my opponent had the commander spell and could choose new targets, X target artifacts, that could have really hurt quite a bit. So if I would have just had the construct and the Power Stone and not used Duretti and made that play, they would have had to have at least killed like his Chrome Mox, and then I could have Duretti'd away the other one perhaps. But by using the Mox Diamond in my hand. But fortunately, he didn't have that card. He didn't get to choose new targets, and so with that, we are going to continue with the turn. Opponent vamps during upkeep. The card that he should be getting here almost 100% is Necropotence. That's how you get back in this game. Pin me under this, get a Necropotence, and deal with the Tevesh by drawing cards of your own, and then doing what this deck does best, puking out a bunch of artifacts, attacking permanents, and going for it. But I think he gets Mana Crypt here. Unless this is like an ad nauseum turn, I don't agree with this at all. It's not. It's just an overflowing Chalice turn. This is a huge error, I think. 100%, you wait and you wait on this card, and then you use it to get. If you have a fast mana, you get a. What's the card called? Ad nauseum. Otherwise, you get Necropotence. Like that's the play for that Vampiric Tutor. But all right, well, that's not what happened here. So we'll go ahead and just play. I believe. Yeah, I'm going to draw some cards first. I find my own Deflecting Swat. That's the card name I was trying to remember earlier. Go ahead and kill their Chalice on 2, so I can get them with a little crypt damage. We'll play a Coalition Relic. That doesn't do anything except kill Mana Crypts next turn. Play a Rog and pass for the turn. I can't do a lot else. Don't know of any cards in my opponent's hand, but he's down to top decking. Well, plus whatever that last card is in hand. And maybe he did get Necro, right? Like, we're about to find out, and there's not much I can do about it. Maybe he did get Ad Nauseam. Maybe he tutored for one of those, and these were just top decks. It's hard to know. But we're going to find out here if he got Necro or not, because it will surely come down. I'm seeing, oh god, it's Ad Nauseam. Wait, what? Wait, what's going on? Plunge into Darkness. It did not tutor for Necro. So saved by lack of familiarity with the deck, I think. So he plunges, pays a good chunk of life just to ensure, 13 as a matter of fact, just to ensure he gets a nice dig and gets to look at all of these cards. There goes his Necropotence, right? And what did my opponent keep of the 13? A Liliana. So he's hoping that the Liliana will get him there, I guess. Plays his last card and makes me discard I'll discard a Mox that I can't do much with. Don't need for Duretti. Alright. So for my turn, top deck of Dust Bowl is phenomenal. I'm going to go ahead and ultimate Tevesh. I can't even tell at that point which Tevesh is what, who owns what. It's really frustrating. Interface problem, but anyway. I draw and do all this good stuff. Make my opponent sack a Planeswalker. He chooses correctly to sacrifice Karn because at this point his only hope is to ultimate Liliana. Of course, you will have to get this deflecting swat out of my hand or he's going to target himself with that. He doesn't know that, of course, but I'll go ahead and plus Liliana here, throw away discard since it's an empty-handed opponent, and kill a red source and make another construct and pass. Alright, for my opponent's turn, he draws pluses. I'm going to throw away the mountain. He throws away Underworld Breach because if he doesn't do that, I'm going to plus and take it from him, so he might as well. This is good play. Alright, so I'll charge. And for my turn, I'll draw an Unmasked. It's a perfect card to just throw away to Liliana. We're just gonna do it. And even though I get nothing from my opponent, we're just continuing to charge up Liliana's ultimate and press forward with that. I'll go ahead and Dust Bowl my opponent. I believe... Oh no, we're playing the commander and drawing 3. I guess it could have done this beforehand and then discarded maybe something different, but as you can see, it didn't really matter here. So, go ahead and kill the Mana Crypt finally, and kill the non-basic land, I think. What I'm doing? Oh, I'm mapping. This is a mistake here, I think. I do map for Saga here. I mean, it's greedy. I don't need this. But I guess I was trying to get a robot going in order to... I don't know why I played that off and didn't use Workshop, by the way. Just some misplays here, really bad. So I'm going to throw the him away to the Liliana here, and I guess I got this because I'm thinking that I can... If it prevents my opponent from ticking this up to 7, because I can get a robot and attack and take them off their ultimate here. So this is designed to encourage my opponent to plus Liliana next turn, which means, and just hope they don't draw a duress, right, next turn. They'll plus it, throw away the card in their hand, and then from there, ultimate Liliana right away because I'll have pressure on it. And I want them to ultimate before they get a duress and take the deflecting swat out of my hand. That's kind of the thinking here, I guess. I don't think it's good. Honestly, I think that I probably should have got a strip mine, but for a second there I thought I was getting duressed. Nope, just a Mox Amber. I'm going to throw away him to Torok against an empty-handed opponent once again. Alright. So, Lily's on 6. Draw for the turn. Don't have a solution to Liliana yet. We'll go ahead and make a token. We'll go ahead and eat it and draw some cards. Necro. Necro's good enough to get a win, even if my opponent Liliana's probably going to win anyway, basically. I'll go ahead and play Grim here, obviously. Discard a City of Brass, don't need it. I have no idea how I clicked Necropotence there. I'm wondering if there's some kind of glitch here with the last turn. I'm wondering if it just didn't... They can't possibly... I cannot imagine myself making a play that poor. I think what happened is that I discarded City of Brass. I Dust Bowl their Workshop. and I play Necro, and then my opponent scoops, is I think what happened. Um, I don't see why you wouldn't ultimate Lily first, honestly. Um, but as we know, it's possible that if my opponent had, if my opponent had done that and did not draw a duress effect, of course, it's instant death anyway with the deflecting swat because I just bounce it back at him. But anyway, that is how that game played out, and we'll move on to the game against Killer Banana. And you can see these games are quite interesting, especially the mirror matches, frankly, in terms of positioning, jockeying for position. All right, so Killer Banana, Thrasios Timna, another cEDH combo. It's just partners for days. cEDH, I think for the most part, is dominated by partners. I could be wrong. I don't know enough about what else is out there. I know about the online environment. I don't know about the off. Online, though, for the most part, cEDH is a partner format. It is just you're playing partners or you're making a mistake, with very few exceptions. At any rate, there are of course commanders that are pretty competitive, like Ragavan can be, and a couple of others. But in terms of win rate, I believe the highest win rates would be partners here. Oh, Killer Banana disconnected. Okay, good to know. All right, but this is a keep, obviously a fast hand and a disruptive one, and I'm going first. All good stuff. So, opponent leads off with Overgrown Tomb, goes for plays a Mana Crypt, and Bloom Tender. So very, very fast start, but I get to Vampiric Tutor, and my start's just a little faster. All right, mostly because I went first. So I get to run out Crypt, Grim, kill their Mana Crypt, and pass for the turn. I do it without tapping my Grim. So I could have played the Grim into the Thran and then killed their Mana Crypt. But the reason I don't do it... Oh, no, I Vampiric Tutored Crypt. Mono... No, I didn't have enough mana to do it, or I wouldn't have had the red. So that's the main reason. Obviously, if I did, though, it might have actually not been correct necessarily to do that, only because... this allows me, even if my opponent has a disenchant for the Grim, I can get my commander down. Well, they don't know that I don't have a land, but I can threaten to get my commander down. If they have a disenchant for the Mana Crypt, I can get my commander down. And they want to kill the Mana Crypt more than the Grim, but the Grim right now is the one that guarantees I can play it. So, yeah, I mean, I guess if I did have one extra, I would have played the Thran Dynamo there, but I throw this out. This is just bait. If my opponent uses any portion of their turn to kill this thing, I am happy because that means they are not. They don't have mana to deal with the rest of what I'm about to do, and that's good. It is also important, it is also played, because if my opponent goes land, say Mox or whatever, and then plays Timna and attacks with Bloom Tender, I can chump block and I can prevent my opponent from drawing a card, and that might be relevant, right? Instead, they do nothing, and I'm not happy to see that because that could indicate a counterspell here. But I have so much mana that even if it's a counterspell, I can probably work around it. So I decide the way to do that, or attempt to do that, is just to braid this thing. Opponent floats a green in response. I go ahead and just think about it and go for hell with it. I'm going for the commander. What do they have? And if they do have it, next turn I can run out 4 mana, Thran Dynamo, Rakdos, and just follow up with another shot at Tevesh. So what counterspell do they actually have here? Maybe like negate, mana leak, delay. But I mean, still, they're on a lot. But negate was on that list, and they've got it. Okay, and a Vampiric Tutor. Uh-oh. Not good. And opponent plays Oko. I'm hoping that's what they tutored for and not one of the cards that I actually fear, like Necro or something along those lines. Oko here, it's annoying, but it's not the end of the world. Obviously, they're trying to pinch my mana and make sure I can't get my commander. With the top deck Mana Vault, though, very nice. So I get to run Thran Dynamo into Rakdos, Vault, and pass. And it's going to be pretty hard for my opponent to stop me from playing my commander next turn without something to go along with what they got in their hand. Instead, they take my Rogue. A very interesting and aggressive play. I'm not sure that I agree with it. I don't know what's in their hand, but yeah, very interesting play. And I draw a Diabolic Intent, so it turns out to hurt me here. But I don't know how much. So I'm of course going to go for the commander. I'm not going to wait and let my opponent have more turns to draw a counterspell. So we'll see if I can pull a counter out of their hand, or if they even have one. Instead, I get to make thralls, and then I have to decide if I want to intent. So I would have to use the mana vault to intent here. And there isn't that much that I'd be getting. I could get like a clamp and then play clamp and then draw 2 cards. But if I wait a turn, I get a lot more information. I could potentially just get a card that wins the game on the spot. So let's wait. Opponent gets a Triome. Respect that. Makes a food. I guess I could have made a 3/3 and done something here and attacked or whatever. But I do have my blockers. And we are probably going to bug, apparently. I'm sure my opponent did not tap 2 mana and say go. I think what they actually did was play Thrasios here and pass. And I think we're bugged out. And then for my turn, I want to say I drew a black. I Tevesh Szat'd and drew. I think I got a black. I cast Diabolic Intent. It resolved, and I Death Clouded for all of my opponent's hand, creatures, board, everything except for the Oko. And with just an Oko facing down this board, my opponent scooped. Alright, so the next game was Dapper Dan. And Dapper Dan is playing against, playing Arcanist the Omnipotent. Another, not a, I wouldn't say a tier 1 commander, but certainly a commander, a tier 2 that can be quite good and can be quite problematic for me, given that if I don't draw the right interaction from my opponent's hand, it's very possible he can just keep me off of my commander. So I have to mulligan that first hand. It was borderline keepable, but a little too risky for my taste. Second hand, very, very fair. I mean, it's got interaction and everything, but it's so slow. This deck mulligans well. I think the correct answer here, I don't know what I chose to do. We'll find out in a second, but I'm pretty sure the answer here is I should be mulliganing, not hoping to draw fast mana, like, artifact mana to go with. Like, against blue especially, we want to get fast mana on board and we want to get ahead of them. So we'll see what I chose to do. But apparently I chose to keep here. I don't think that was right. I do understand the Yawgmoth's Will, Strip Mine, and of course I've got artifact removal, and those things are all good, but yeah, I don't know. I'm going to play turn 1 Seal, so I'm feeling a little less scared of whatever could be happening over there when I see that. It's not a good card to be playing ever, basically. I don't know. I don't think it's a very good card. Alright, I get a Smoldering Marsh, so I'm going to go and run out Vista and see if I can stick a Grim. And if it sticks, then yeah, and it does. Then my opponent's in big trouble here. So either they don't have a counterspell on 2, or they don't know they need to counter Grim. But either way, I'm going to go ahead and just draw and play a land here and pass. See what's going on. No threats yet. I thought maybe they'd go like land Planeswalker, and then I could rampage on my turn and deal with it. But if we're just going to play the draw go game, I can play that for a little while. I'll play the city here, play the Torque. Again, passing, waiting, biding my time. Opponent plays the Reliquary Tower. Okay. Play a Signet. Excellent. So the City of Traders has produced 4 mana for me, so now I can go ahead and play the Strip Mine. That is fine. I can will it back into play and get 2 more mana if I want to, or I can will a Strip Mine back out. I just have to be patient. Alright, opponent plays Lightning Greaves. That is a bit of an opening. There's only 3 mana there. I've got a Strip Mine. I do not understand this at all. I'm obviously going to Strip Mine with the untapped blue sources. And then my opponent plays Trick Mine. You got me. Trick Bind. Counter target activated, but, alright, whatever. Who cares? Alright, so for my turn, I draw a Position Agent. Not particularly useful here. Let's test the waters. How does Yawgmoth's Will sound to you, opponent? Good? Excellent. Let's Strip Mine again. Opponent has no Stifle. Okay. There's Tevesh. There's Rog. There's some cards. Yum, 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 and I've got a Deflecting Swat. Beautiful. For my opponent's turn, they Brainstorm. And Telling Time, cool, because that allows them to get rid of the cards they don't want. Plays a land and passes. But now the damage has already been done, right? I go for a Soul Ring here. They have to allow it because it's not actually the card that's bad for them that they have to counter, so it's just bad for them because they're probably not going to win. I go ahead and turn this into an artifact, and with the Soul Ring mana, I'm just going to by force the Greaves and Seal of Removal. Possibly, my opponent might counterspell it, but if they do, I'm not super worried about it. As long as it's not mana drain. It's Twin Cast. Yuck. Okay, well, I didn't see that one coming, but now I'm about to lose 2 artifacts. They take Soul Ring and a tapped Grim Monolith over, like, Liquid Metal Torque? I don't agree with that one. I just showed you how powerful Torque is in my deck. But, you know, hey, whatever. Let's get in there with Rag. Slam, and I see a Blightsteel Colossus. Okay, we'll make some tokens and pass. I imagine this is, now I'm thinking this is a, they polymorph into Blightsteel? I mean, I'm not exactly sure. But with the Lightning Greaves in play, all of a sudden, if you think about it, had they had an artifact that they could or a creature they could polymorph into, they could have went, you know, I don't know, Ornithopter, polymorph, Blightsteel, attack, and kill me. Just lethal on the spot. Quite scary, and this is why you just cannot take, I mean, absolutely cannot take any deck, no matter how, like, janky it looks, you know, Trick Mind and whatnot, out of nowhere, you can just die. So you've got to treat, if you're running cEDH, treat every opponent like they can, try to think of every way that they can actually win the game, and give them no time if you can help it. So I was being a little lax here. Luckily, you know, my instinctual plays were correct. I didn't have my hackles up until I saw that. Alright, so we'll go ahead and draw some cards here. Breach, excellent. Let's go ahead and play Ragavan, just test the water, see if my opponent takes the bait on that, which I'm going to go ahead and Diabolic Intent away my token and see if they take the bait on this. In response, my opponent has Summary Dismissal. Exile all other spells and counter all abilities. Opponent really likes countering abilities, apparently. Super interesting. That's the second card I've seen like that. So that actually tells me, that's some information for me. So I'm just going to let that happen, of course, and be done. I've got multiple threats going. I don't need to protect threats. I'm going to save this to protect threats to me, not threats to my opponent. So, and my opponent goes for Control Magic on Ragavan. Gnarly. And I think about it, because I could swat. But I decide what I'm going to do instead is just flash out Opposition Agent in response, let him have it, and I have a blocker. That's fine. You have a Ragavan. This basically counters the Control Magic. I do get 2 for 1 here, but I can afford that when I'm drawing 3 cards a turn. It's totally fine. And Draw Calling the Weak, very, very nice to see there. And so I'm going to Deluge for 1 from hand, and this is really cool because I get to Deluge for 1 and keep my Opposition Agent, if it sticks. Opponent Force of Negations, exiling Dissipate. I'm not really sure why. Why are they protecting Ragavan here? This makes no sense to me. But yeah, I'm going to let that go. And just make some blockers just in case. I don't know. What is Ragavan supposed to do here? Okay. I think that was awful, honestly. Well, they can play Arcanist here. And they don't. And I have Tevesh Szat on 10. So what does that tell you? What do you read here? You should definitely be paying attention to things like this. Look at the way this game's played out, and look at what my opponent is. He has 1 card in hand, he's exactly 6, and he's got a card that taps and draws 3 mana that costs exactly 6, and is not playing it. And we've also seen a certain theme among cards from my opponent. So what do you think my opponent's plan is, knowing that I intend to ultimate Tevesh right now, right? It's too juicy, there's no way I can resist. Well, I'm pretty sure that their plan is Trick Mind, Summary Dismissal, and so forth. It's probably that, right? I'm going to ultimate Tevesh, I'm going to kill my own commander, and then they're just going to counter the effect. Well, they think they are. So that's what I'm expecting here. And now that I'm expecting it, I go for it anyway. And sure enough, disallow, counter target activated or triggered ability. Of course, I'm just going to deflecting swap that. I don't control a commander, so I actually have to pay full cost for the swap. And just retarget the card to... this is a little weird. So this card is modal, right? So it's counter target spell, activated ability, or triggered ability. This is not modal, sorry. All right, so one thing that you want to know about modal cards, and I'm going to explain this in a second. Take a look here. So we're going to look up a card called Pyroblast. Okay, we're moving super slow. All right. Choose one. Counter target spell if it's blue, destroy target permanent if it's blue. So this is a modal card. This card has a mode of countering a spell or destroying a permanent if it's blue. If this card is put into a particular mode and you deflect it, you cannot take it out of that mode. So if my opponent plays this card and says destroy target permanent if it's blue, and I deflect it, I cannot make it target the deflecting SWAT because he doesn't have it in counterspell mode if it's blue. If he plays it on the counter target spell if it's blue card and I play deflecting SWAT, I can make it target deflecting SWAT, but deflecting SWAT would be targeted as the counter spell, as the spell he's going to try to counter if it's blue, and then deflecting SWAT is not blue, so it won't counter it, and of course it's not even on the stack at that point. But the point is, it's modal, so you cannot change the mode and retarget it. You can retarget it within the same mode that it's in. It's very important. Sometimes it's an important old school thing, particularly for cards like Pyroblast and Red Elemental Blast and cards like that. And I was under the impression this card was modal, so I actually played the way I played very specifically, holding down control. The opponent plays disallow, and I activate Liquid Metal Torque and disallow I deflecting SWAT to make, so the disallow is counter target ability, and so I deflecting SWAT to make the disallow target the opposition agent. Sorry, the Liquid Metal Torque, the activated ability. I needed at least one activated ability for them to target instead of the activated ability we're targeting. Or that was my thinking, because I thought it was modal. But as it turns out, it doesn't say choose one. It doesn't say, like, pick a mode. What it actually says is counter target spell, activated ability, or triggered ability. And since it's checking as an or statement, not as a if-then statement or whatever, not as a modal statement, what that means is that this card will check whatever it's targeting, and if that thing is a spell, activated, or triggered ability, if it's any of those three, then it will counter it. And what that means is that I was able to deflecting SWAT the disallow back to the deflecting SWAT. The deflecting SWAT is then off the stack, and the disallow has no target, and the disallow fizzles. And so my Liquid Metal Torque activating, targeting my opposition agent made it an artifact creature. But I had specifically held it up because I was anticipating possibly disallow or stifle or whatever, and I didn't know if I needed to retarget it to, and if it had been stifle, I would have had to use the Liquid Metal Torque and retarget it in that way. But disallow has the ability to counter, so in this case, it just fails to counter the deflecting SWAT, and of course the commander ults. We steal Arcanist, and my opponent calls me a biznitch. And I say, you really wanted those Greaves, huh? And, oh no, I say, what did I say here? Oh, just something along the lines of, I had a feeling, I don't care about the name calling, but I had a feeling that they might have something like that. So it works out nicely. And if you didn't know about the modal spells, just what you need to look for is choose one, this. Here's a perfect example. Choose two, right? A commonly used, currently played card that's modal. Pick two. So if you redirect this thing, like if you redirect Culligan's command, you cannot like switch it out of the discard artifact mode and to put it into the 2 damage mode. This is what I mean about modal. So keep that in mind when you're using a deflecting SWAT, because if you're anticipating a card that fits that style of effect, like I thought it was going to be a stifle there, you have to be prepared to give yourself a target. Anyway, we'll move on though. That was, who the heck was that? Dapper Dan? I think that was Dapper Dan. So we've got some games here. I don't think I'm going to get through the 20th and the 21st, so we'll run through the 20th today. And we'll run through the next game here against 5-color bad stuff. We're on a 5-color bad stuff excuse me, spree today. But these are all going to be mostly good games, I would say. And then when I've got a huge run through I'm a Donkey games on the next day, but that'll probably be the next video. So these games can get the attention they deserve. All right, playing against Rograkh, Architect of Ascension, and Esior. This Rograkh here, I believe, is complete trash. This card should be Tymna. Tymna and Esior, very scary combo. Rograkh and Esior, not scary at all. Tymna and this flyer, actually, if this deck gets banned, that's a deck I might try because it's that gross. But in the meantime, I've got an excellent hand. Obviously, I'm going to keep. If I'm going first, this is turn 2 Necro. Still had the Vault on this day. I think it was the 21st when I made the switch. I could go first turn Imperial Seal for Opal, and then turn 2 Necro. But I am not going first, so it's a question of whether or not I want to take that risk. I'm going to go ahead and search here and Imperial Seal, but what do I get? Well, I'm fully expecting a turn 2 Esior. I see an Enlightened Tutor for Sphere of Resistance. Not what I was expecting. Very strange. Okay. Alright, so with the Sphere, can I please, Magic Online, please advance the turn? So annoying, man. This interface is so annoying. God, I wish they would update it. Alright. Just fix this stuff. Just fix the replays, man. It's like the worst thing. Alright, we're trying to get a game here. So, as it turns out, I didn't get the Mox Diamond. So, I did think about it, obviously, but I thought it was also a bit of a risk if my opponent had any disruption. I don't want to, like, dump out Mox Diamond into 2 untapped blue mana and then just get my Necro countered and then I've got nothing. So I decided to go get Mana Crypt, because Mana Crypt allows me to go like land, Mana Crypt, Necro. I would play the Vault of Whispers, Mana Crypt, Warm Power Stone. And if my opponent counters the Mana Crypt, that's fine. I play Vault, pass for the turn. And then on the next turn, if I draw a Black Source, I can Black Source Necro or Black Source Warm Power Stone. And so the key is I want to keep playing things that my opponent wants to deal with turn after turn until they can't, and then that's the turn when I potentially win the game. So I took the Mana Crypt because it better enables me to do that, and I'm less all in on the turn. It turns out to be quite helpful here. I can play it for a singular mana, and I can by force away my opponent's Sphere of Resistance. And if they're playing cards like that, I probably should play Rog now while he's free, so I go ahead and get him down here. I do not play the Vault here only because there's a chance they have like a Dust to Dust or something, and so I don't want to give my opponent 2 targets. And so it is a turn away from playing Necro, but this threatens to play my commander next turn, and again, if they destroy the Crypt, which is what I'm expecting to happen, I won't play the commander, but I can play land, Warm Power Stone, and once again threaten the commander. Then they probably kill the Power Stone, and I hopefully top deck a Swamp somewhere in there and just play the Necro and win the game that way. So that's all what this is about. All right, so their opponent instead Crypt, Talisman, land, Esior, and yeah, I don't care about Esior at all. Without Tymna, what good is this 1/3 flyer? It doesn't draw any cards. All right, I draw Rakdos Signet. This is excellent. I could play for a Necro here, but there is 2 blue untapped still, and of course I'm trying to play around that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go for a Shattering Spree on both cards here. If they burn a counter and protect the Mana Crypt, it is what it is. But then I get to play a land and run out the Power Stone, and that is very acceptable as well. And if they don't have a counter, oh, beautiful. All right, that tells me all I need to know about my opponent's hand, right? All right, so we're going to do the same thing. We're going to get this Power Stone out, and now I've got huge mana advantage over my opponent, and almost no threat. I've got my commander I can threaten him with, and I still have the Necro. And if this was Tymna, they could play Tymna here and start drawing cards and flip this game. But it is not. It is just Thorn of Amethyst? I don't know what's going on over there, but I am not worried about it because now my opponent can barely even force the will. They only have 1 card in hand. They can't play any counter spells because the Thorn is locking them out. So this actually just... You might as well play Defense Grid in your blue deck at this point. So I'm super cool with it. Alright, for my turn, the mana doesn't quite work out here, but I will play the Rakdos Signet, and then, come on. I mean, I have a window to slam Necro into play, so I'm just going to slam Necro into play. We'll get the Thran Dynamo down in a second. Let's win the game now and worry about that later. Alright, great hand, obviously. I drew 7. It's always a great hand when you do that. Opponent trinkets into a Mox Amber, which costs them a mana to play. It doesn't even bother attacking. I think at this point the game is essentially hopeless and is just allowing me to have my fun. Alright, I'm going to Thran Dynamo. Thoughtseize Ugin Ineffable. I'm going to F that card out of my opponent's hand. Another card that's very interesting and could be used in this deck. Card drawing, mana source, removal, all wrapped up in one delicious 6 colorless package. A very interesting card, but I don't know. It's a card I have to think about. 6 mana is quite a bit. It's a big ask. I'm not sure that we need it. It does have the ability to kill planeswalkers. That is actually very interesting. I definitely need to give this card some thought. Well, in the meantime, we're just going to do naughty things here. Go ahead and grab some cards. Saving me a little bit of life with the Necro, I guess. Play my Commander, yeah. Draw some more cards here. I'll worry about dealing with the Thorn of Amethyst later. Perhaps it's just slowing my opponent down for now, and it's really not hurting me. I might just leave it in play permanently and not worry about it. Pay 2 mana for a Dark Ritual is still a good card. It does hurt my Yogg Will a little bit, so I might deal with it. He drew a card and conceded. No wonder we're not skipping ahead. I mean, as he should. Like, this game's super over, right? Excuse me. So we'll move on to the next game. It's 5 color bad stuff. Playing, I think more of the same. No, switches over to Lathril. Another just... I'm not sure what he's doing with all these, like, random... pretty mediocre commanders. I won't say garbage, but I mean, it doesn't make mana and it doesn't make spells. So, I mean, if it don't make dollars, it don't make sense, man. All right. So anyway, my opponent's gonna lead off with Thoughtseize here. That's great for them because they can protect their hand or get into my fast mana. But I mean, this hand is very resilient to a Thoughtseize here. Very strong. Opponent chooses the Dark Ritual. I think that makes the most sense. But of course, the punish is that I get to attack their hand back. It makes the most sense just because if I get my commander down too quickly, the game will end. I don't know what's going on with Magic Online again. Let's see if we can advance this game state. All right, so can we advance the game state? Can we play? Good night, man. All right, so I'm going to Inquisition and see what's going on over there, and I see a couple mana sources, a little bit of ramp, a top, and a disenchant. I obviously want to play Arcane Signet next turn if I can. I have removal for the Druid. Top is possibly the only other card I'd consider between these two. I'm just going to take out the disenchant, I'm pretty sure, yeah. Because, and save my Wasteland for one of their lands. Save my removal for their Druid. Sounds good. Alright, opponent's turn. Plays the expected Bayou into Druid and passes for the turn. Alright, let's see what we can draw here. And for my turn, can we advance? Holy crap. I don't know what's going on with Magic Online. I apologize for this. This is just horrible and painful. I'm literally just clicking the hell out of the next button and it's just doing nothing, right? Alright, so I top deck cEDH Traders, which is huge tempo. I'm going to hit play on this and just see if it'll run this way. The city is a huge tempo for me because I could have played City Signet Removal. But it makes more sense to do this because I definitely want to Wasteland as soon as possible. But as soon as possible might not be this exact second. And by doing it this way, I can City Signet, Wasteland them, and then plunge. So I think this makes more sense that I'm going to get multiple uses of the City of Traders this way. Opponent for their turn just plays top that we know about, a tomb that we know about. So he's got 2 cards in hand we do not know about. And one of them is a Lantern War Elf. Perfect. I've got Doretti, whatever the case is. Not super concerned with the elf. Can we please go on to the next phase? My God. This is this interface is pathetic, honestly. Okay. Oh man, insane top deck. Obviously, Soul Ring is just gross right here. So now I get to run out the Signet and run out the Ready instead of Plunge. I can sit on Plunge, and I'm going to just kill that, produce a blocker for the Llanowar Elf, and pass for the turn. And my opponent's one away from their commander. Has a Bird of Paradise, has Abrupt Decay. I'm targeting the Ready. Good choice. Good card. So that's the Ready did not really get me much value. It did get me an Abrupt Decay, and it left me with a token to protect my commander or feed to my commander. But that's about it. Alright, so now I could continue to attack my opponent's board by trying to plunge into removal here. Or I can go for my commander and just draw some cards, right? And plunge later. And given the choice between the two, this commander isn't so threatening that I need to like emergency plunge and search for a solution. So I'm not going to hit the panic button here. I'm just going to go ahead and just draw 3 cards and then figure out from there what to do. And I see Chrome Mox, Feed the Swarm, Ragavan. Very, very nice. Chrome Mox turns that useless Unmask into a useful card again. And I can actually play Ragavan and swing into that bird and get some more mana for next turn. All of it working around City of Traders, of course. Opponent, for some reason, decides to give me their Sensei's Divining Top. I guess he knew... Oh, because he had... Oh, that's right. So part of the thing that made this so cool is that my opponent had stacked the top of his deck with the top. So he's got to protect it, which means I get to steal it. So I can play their top, or I can keep the treasure, and I have both available to me. And I don't remember which I choose. I guess I chose to play the top. So if I use it, I give it back to them, but get a card, and I decide that's exactly what I want to do and find myself a land. I'm going to go ahead and sack the City of Traders. It's done its job. So why do I do that? It's because now my opponent's next top deck is the top again, which they're going to have to spend a mana to play, spend a mana to use if they want to use it before they draw. And of course, I'm thinking they might want to play their commander next turn, which means it's going to sit stuck in their hand. And if it's stuck in their hand, also, since he's Divining Top, potentially I can just steal it again with Ragavan later. So it's not a huge threat to me here. But for my opponent's turn, Natural Order. So that's the card that he was hiding on top of his deck. Nasty. So I'm getting Natural Ordered here into Terastodon, thumping Soul Ring, Tevesh, Szat, and then a Sulphur Springs. I don't agree with Sulphur Springs here. I'm not sure why you would take that over Arcane Signet. That doesn't seem correct to me at all. But the others do. And it's quite painful, but not backbreaking. Just evening things out, right? My opponent's down to 3 mana, I'm down to 3 mana. Okay, I see you. But I do have that Feed the Swarm hiding over there, and of course I have a fetch land here, so not really taking me off colored mana. I draw a drum, that's nice. I can just play that and use it as a mana source without slowing down a bit. I'm going to go ahead and nuke the Elephant in my way, play a Ragavan, and attack for 9. Brutal. So I got a mana source down and killed an elephant and attacked for 9. That's just all good, plus a very scary threat. Opponent really needs to clear the board. And remember, we know what the card is in his hand. It's that Sensei's Divining Top that I gave him back that's going to be a little slow to use, right? Alright, so he draws for the turn and Inquisition's away my plunge. Unfortunate. Would have really liked to have used it, but obviously this was the perfect window for me to use it, but had the removal in response. He gets the Sensei's Divining Top. But again, very hard card to use when Ragavan's hitting you. I guess you can put the second best card on top. Maybe I should not have given it back to him, but okay. But he has to be careful, because if he ever puts it on top, I just steal it again. Alright, we're going to smash for 11. Yeah, opponent chump blocks there, doesn't want to give me a... I don't know why you did chump block and not use Sensei's Divining Top. This... not sure that makes any sense. Anyway, he tops there and concedes. Yeah, it's all over. That last turn didn't make any sense. Should have used the bird and let me hit him, and then just given me like a land or something, and then use my own Ragavan against me to dig further into his library to try to find a toxic deluge and get out of that board state. But anyway, more Lathro again, not a competitive commander. I don't think it's just so. I mean, you're making elves. Like, what is that doing for you? It's not Edric. You know, I just don't get it. But I will play. And I get a first turn as a Saga. I'm going to hide the fact that I can make a robot next turn. I'll hold the Mox Diamond. Opponent leads off with a Mox Cavern of Souls, Elf of Deep Shadows. The rest taking Karn. Nasty. I was so excited to see that Mox when I got the Karn in hand, but that's not going to work. But they're only down to 3 cards, and I've got some disruption in the form of a Dust Bowl that he could not take, and some aggression in the form of Saga, plus ramp eventually. So I'm still doing fine here. Alright, so the jig is up with the Mox Diamond. Of course I need to get it down to make a robot here if I want to. I might not though, because I drew the Arcane Signet. I decide to do it though. I'm going to go ahead and fetch here before my opponent can get an opposition agent against me, and just sit on the robot. I can possibly make 2, and then the menace, I can deal with the menace and not even really worry about the commander even hitting me without my opponent having removal, in which case I'm trading an activation for removal, which is great. So opponent plays their commander, and I'm just going to activate as we know. And of course, this kind of threatens a opposition agent, but he dealt it, and I didn't have one, so obviously my opponent knows that that's not a threat. That's not a real threat. All right, so I drew Cabal Ritual. This is interesting because I could possibly Ritual and then Robot and then do some other stuff like play a land and a Signet. So I have to think about how I want to do this turn. So I do decide to make the guy, but I don't use the Ritual. Play a Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, land, and pass. I think I'm going to make a Rog here. Yeah, I'm going to actually attack for 6 and put some pressure on my opponent and pass. So if my opponent has removal for this, they get to hit me and make a couple of dorks. And it's not great, but it's not horrible. Maybe this is an aggressive attack here. Perhaps I should have held back. But we'll see if I get punished. However, part of the reason I made it, by the way, was because one of the best cards that my opponent can play is Necropotence, and the next best would be like Ad Nauseam and then Sylvan Library and stuff. And so if I can get into my opponent's life total, it can take some of the sting out of those cards. I mean, if I can hit him for 6 and then like 18, we're talking about 18 less cards that you can Necropotence with, right? So that's part of the reason why it's important. I felt it was important to try to get in. 6 damage is a lot, and I want to get that in. And for my opponent's turn, he says a Wood Elf into a Forest. So yeah, it worked out that time. All right, I'm going to get the commander down and draw some cards, and then figure out where to go from there. Lovely. Him to Torok. Opponent has 3 cards in hand, and I've got Unholy Heat, so I'm going to go ahead and just imprint, I believe, the Cabal Ritual. And, you know, Unholy Heat now is Praetor's Grasp, but at the time it was Unholy Heat. And Urza Saga is an enchantment and a land, so there's 2. Karn is a Planeswalker, that's 3. So if I cast him to Torok, that's a sorcery, that's 4. And I now have Delirium, so we'll take that. Trastodon. And a 3/3. And then kill their commander and smash in for 14. Tremendous amount of pressure on my opponent at this point. They're down to 18. Not looking good over there. But my opponent is 1 mana shy of replaying their commander. That is a possibility here, of course. Instead, they get Marwyn, the Nurture, and I choose not to attack Tevesh, which makes sense. I mean, you probably need some chump blockers or just some actual, like, because I could possibly, this could possibly be a lethal turn here. So let's see what we can do. First, let's get some cards. Draw another 3. And, yeah, okay, Abrade, Liliana, Diabolic Intent. This looks great. Let's see what we can do here. So go ahead and Dust Bowl away their Cavern of Souls. Not sure why, but why not? Okay. I think it was a little premature to make that play. I probably should have attacked first, but yeah, I killed the Cavern of Souls, attack in for 7. I think I was looking to see if they had an opposition agent that they were hiding over there. But yeah, I get in for 7. This is great. And then from there, it's really just what do you want to do. And I decided what I want to do is kill this thing, which could potentially tap for multiple mana. I'll leave him with the Mox and just pass. I don't think that was the best played turn there. I probably could have played that a lot better. I could have just tutored. I think the reason I didn't tutor, though, as I said, though, is because of the risk of opposition agent. Even with an abrade that I could abrade in response. I guess I just didn't want to be forced into it. And by attacking their mana in this manner, I pretty much sealed the game up anyway. Opponent's at 4. There's really not much you can do to get out of that. So we just move on to the next game. And another 5-color bad stuff game. I think we're going to have five color bad stuff games. Lathril again. This hand is very, very slow, but so is that deck. And it does have Skull Clamp, and when you have Skull Clamp, you really don't want to mulligan, plus deflecting SWAT, right? So if my opponent has, him to Torok and Thoughtseize, there's just some cards that I'm very happy to see, that I can protect my hand with. And possibly later on, maybe like if they have a Wasteland or something, so I'm okay with it. Okay, well, it's not going to be a him if it's anything. It could be. What if they had like Disenchant and I just deflect it back, Nope, it's a Dark Confidant. So opponent's also got a card drawing engine, and theirs is better than mine. And now my hand decision to keep seems kind of weak, because my draw isn't great. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and clamp here and draw. Ugh, and I miss mana. Look at the map, but yeah, this isn't looking stellar. My opponent's got Dark Confidant now. So this hand was kind of decent, and now looks kind of weak. But remember, map can go get Workshop, and then I can Workshop Lotus Necro, and probably just win there. I can also go get Urborg or feed if my opponent gets an Urborg of their own, feed off of their Urborg, and then maybe just go get like Urza or something. So there's definitely something going on here. It's just a matter of how much time do I have in the face of a Dark Confidant. Well, hitting a Llanowar Elf there, it's not horrible. Yavimaya, Priest, Elf. Okay, so they're going pretty fast here. Obviously, threatening to make some good plays and having the mana to make them is bad news for me. But hey, I top deck. All right, Mox Opal. Actually, that's decent. We'll go ahead and play that guy and fetch. And I am going to get Ancient Tomb instead of Workshop here. And the reason I get Ancient Tomb is so that I can play a Torque, and I can play a Rogue Raw follow-up, and at least in this manner get another card drawing engine down. I suppose I could have disrupted here if I'd have done the by force. I would have done it a little differently at the Opal and stuff, and I could by force this off the board. But I'm not entirely convinced. First of all, I kind of want to have a target to deflect to. My opponent kills Skull Clamp, and I just don't know exactly what's going to go on. I'm thinking, hey, maybe he'll just do it like a giant Mind Twist or something. Opponent reveals Expedition map. All right, cool. Maybe they'll strip mine. Excuse me. All right, for their turn, they play Marwyn the Nurturer, Finhorn Elves, which is going to make Marwyn bigger. Tap a Priest for 4 mana and natural. God darn it. So this is just awful, right? Well, no, it's actually not awful at all. These are targets. This card is just so absolutely insane. New targets. God, what is this insane card? How about if instead of killing my permanents, you just kill all of yours? How does that sound? Opponent accepts. So, I mean, this isn't great because, I did just give him 18 points of power in play. In fact, 18, 19, 20, 22, 24. I mean, in very short order, I'm dead. And I have 2 cards that require a ton of life. And a tomb, right? So that's kind of gnarly. Not sure why it doesn't swing there, but I'm grateful for any life total that I don't have to spend. Land here is real nice. So I keep making my land drops. I'm going to go ahead and get the Lotus down, and then I decide that I'm going to play Tevesh Szat and use that to protect my life total. And what I figure is I can block Terrestodon, an elephant, another elephant, which means 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's plenty of stuff here to kill Tevesh Szat, but I can actually replay Tevesh Szat, and I don't care. I don't need the cards from it. And they send everything at Tevesh Szat. I just don't block at all. He tanks for me, and then on my turn I can ad nauseum for a gigantic game over, and I've got blockers to protect my life total and stuff too. Plus, these are all cards, right? This is draw 6 cards. Tevesh Szat just said draw 4 because of clamp. So yeah, sure, go ahead and kill it. I just want him to tank for me because I need time. I need time to win this game, right? Time is what I don't have if I lose my life total. So my opponent has an expedition map in hand and still, as far as I know, has not used it. So they still got that. And they also have contamination, a card that's totally useless against me. I hate useless cards like that. I don't know. Fraley's on the other hand, not useless. Big pain in my butt. That makes this a lot harder. And cleverly, my opponent does not kill the Lotus. They kill the Skull Clamp. And depending on my hand, that actually could have been completely the right play. Kill the Clamp, kill the Tevesh, and from their point of view, I'm flooded, but I have no way to draw cards. I think that was actually really brilliant. And yeah, sure enough, everything goes to Tevesh, so we're not going to waste chump blockers trying to protect what can't be saved. Alright. And then for my turn, you know, during my upkeep, because I would like to possibly Vampiric Tutor, and, you know, hey, I can do it during upkeep, so we'll just go ahead and draw right now, basically ad nauseum right now. And the bottom line is you don't lose when you ad nauseum, but, you know, I just get cards. And then Vampiric Tutor for what I want, and I'm just going to run through the turn. But, yeah, when you imprint Necropotence, it's a pretty bad sign for your opponent. And, yeah, I'm just tutoring and doing what I want. X is 9 on Deluge, no problem. I'm down to 7, but my opponent has 1 card in hand and 1 land in play, and this is what I have in play. And I have a full hand of cards and the Yawgmoth's Will, so game's over. Alright, down to the last game against 5-color bad stuff, I think. And maybe we've got a few more. Alright, you can see now I've got the Cabal Pit in the deck. And it looks like a keep. It's a little risky, but it's so strong, I don't think there's any way that I can not keep this hand. So we'll go ahead and Cabal Pit into Mana Vault and pass. Could run out, I mean, honestly, I could run out Signet here and Demonic Tutor, and I don't know if I do that or not, but I actually think that's the correct play. I should Signet, Demonic Tutor, and get Crypt down, I think. I don't know why I don't do that. That's because if my opponent has, like, land, Nature's Claim here, if I did the other play and they claimed, I would still have Cabal Pit and a Signet in play. But if they do claim here on the vault, I'm kind of hurting pretty bad, actually. Oh, God, can we play? Alright, so there's land. Is it claim? Ah, it's birds. Alright, that's fine. Birds of Paradise, too slow. Probably. Hopefully. Alright, come on. Yep, so we're gonna ignore the Mana Vault. I'm sorry that things are taking so long to make this video. It's because of this click, 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 do nothing, do nothing, do nothing, do nothing, like desperately trying to advance the turn. I'm gonna DT here. Instead of doing the Signet plan, I just go with the Lotus plan. Good enough, right? We'll get Tevesh Szat down, we'll get Rog down, draw some cards, look for some mana sources, find one. Alright, cool. It's tutored. Now we'll go get the Crypt. I'm pretty sure that's the target there. And now if he removes Tevesh Szat, it's already done what it needs to do. Instead, my opponent has Crypt, Grim, Land. This is getting gross. Dark Confidant, Commander. Wow, that's suddenly a lot of pressure. Alright. But my commander isn't dead, so it's not as much pressure as, you know, it should be, I guess. It does kind of take me off of the ability to, hold on a second, what is all this noise? Okay, it takes me off the ability to, draw cards off the commander, though, safely, right? Because I want to make blockers for the lethal. Alright. Let's go, Magic Online. Alright, Mana Crypt. commander, and I guess I'm feeling bold. I decide to sack and draw. Okay, interesting. And boldness rewarded potentially. I don't know. Let's see. I'm gonna go ahead and him taking top cavern. I guess maybe the thinking. I'm not sure why I made this play, honestly. I don't know why I made this play, but I guess that the thinking is that. First of all, I'm sure I wanted to hit a land drop here, which didn't happen. Secondly, I'm not as worried about Lathril hitting me. I feel like I've got some time before it really matters. This does not seem strong to me, though. I throw away a breach because I've got Will in hand. One of Wheels reveals Bloom Tender for the turn, so we'll see what happens. Inquisition's away my Will, so now I've thrown away both. Oops. Probably should have thrown away Ad Naz, frankly, but who knows. Maybe not. Maybe just Ad Naz is the way to win. Alright, so they attack Tevesh and me, so they get a couple of dorks. But I mean, opponent's out of cards in hand, right? So, like, who cares? I mean, you get creatures. I try not to let it happen, but ultimately it's just not good. Commander just isn't good, you know? Alright, so I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, how many cards in my graveyard? 6. I need Threshold. That grief right there was wonderful. So I can actually grief my opponent. Exiling Angrous Rampage here. Killing Grief, which is the 7th card, which now gives me the mana to Cabal Ritual. Yeah, and then Ad Nauseam. It also turns on my Cabal Pit, and then this just standard Ad Nauseam. Take over the game, pay a bunch of life, play a bunch of cards, produce a bunch of mana, do silly things. Diabolic Intent, sweep the board, kill the crypt. I mean, that's what's going to happen anyway. Is it going to happen? Yeah. Just keep puking out mana, sweep the board, tutor, of course. Deluge, X is 3, by force, let's kill all that. And before I can finish my turn, my opponent concedes, obviously. The game is super over, I've got removal in play, 1 million mana, tons of cards in hand. By Ad Nauseam, I mean, I don't understand why this card's not banned. Why is that legal? Why is that a thing we want to happen? I don't know. Maybe somebody has an answer. Maybe they think like that's super cool and you should be able to do that. I feel like it's pretty dumb, but yeah. All right, Dreamcatcher joins me for a game, decides not to join me for a game, and then we get another game against 5-color bad stuff. We got a couple more to run through. I think I might call it at this 5-color bad stuff game here, and I'll just kick that to another video. Reasoning being, I'm a little frustrated with the fact that the games are not advancing. I would have preferred for these games to play out quite a bit faster. Here I have an opening hand that is very tempting to keep, and if this produced black, I probably would, but it only produces red here. On the other hand, red mana, I've got a Vandal Blast, which is good if they have a Soul Ring. I can go red mana Clamp, and then I can Clamp and look for mana, and then as long as I get black, I can kind of dig my way out of it. This is potentially keepable. But potentially keepable versus an a deck that mulligans as well as this one, not quite as good as mulliganing and just having Stone Cold Nuts hand. So we'll go ahead and get rid of, I probably am going to hit land, so I'm good. So I'm going first too. So in a deck like this, there's just no stopping it. Here it comes. Best my opponent could do would be like snuff out on the commander or something, the Rog, but yeah. And here we are with a hell of a start. Mulligan what? Nah, I don't think so. Alright, Thoughtseize my opponent. Opponent plays Veil of Summer in response. Gets draw a card and gets hexproof. Just a weird main deck inclusion. No problem. Alright. So I'm just going to get some land into play. Run out even more mana. And play Karn. And then from there, I can actually produce some pressure, make some tokens, and I've got 2 card drawing engines, pressure, the works. Tons of mana. I mean, my opponent got me with Veil of Summer. Alright, for his turn, Priest of Titania. Card that used to be insanely fast, now it's just not fast enough, obviously. Play Rog here and draw 3 cards, and yeah. Just do exactly what you expect to happen here. which is play Liliana, make us both discard, kill the priest, and make another big creature and attack for 5. And at that point, my opponent concedes. Now I'm going to continue to hammer away at their hand with the Liliana. I can also minus it if my opponent does get a thing into play. I'll start using Karn to draw cards. Tevesh is about to take their commander in about a turn or two. And yeah, there's no coming back from this. This is, what is this, turn 2? Ah, it's disgusting, right? Pretty good mulligan. I guess that's probably good enough. We'll have to end on that spectacular turn. Hopefully I'll remember where to continue. We need to continue with Greaseball and run through the rest of the games. And then we have this epic I'm a Donkey show on the 21st to go through. But that is going to have to be... it's terrible. That's going to have to be for another one. So for now, again, the one change, sorry for the ugliness, but I don't have the Unholy Heat in here. I have the Praetor's Grasp. But I think that down the road, what that card is ultimately going to be it could be Grim Tutor also, but I think Praetor's Grasp is actually better than Grim Tutor, just slightly, because this deck isn't purely combo focused and just going and taking their Crypt, Soul Ring, Strip Mine, their Mind Twist, their Necro, their Mana Drain, whatever the case. It's going to be good for me. Tutoring for an answer to a problem, and they've got the answer in their deck and the problem in play, that kind of thing. Anyway, in the meantime, the card that I want is from MTG Salvation, which shows, I believe, future releases. Is Double Masters stuff. I don't know what this is. But I do know that there is a new card coming. And it's a black, and it's 2 and a black. And I don't know if it's in Double Masters, though. I guess I'm not fully prepared to bring the card up. Was it from there or from New Capenna? I think it's from New Capenna. Yeah, this... Oh, this Legends card? Interesting. So, what I don't know is when these cards release. Battle for Baldur's Gate. I think this is the one that... This has the card that I'm looking for. Battle for Baldur's Gate. Yes, there it is. Black Market Connection. So this is the card that I think... It's currently Praetor's Grasp, but it'll probably be this. At the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, choose one or more. Create a treasure, lose a life. So already, very, very good. It's just a 3-mana mana source that you can put the mana in the bank, though. So a little bit like Coalition Relic, in the sense that if you don't spend the mana, you get an additional mana on the next turn. Only slightly better in a way, because you get a mana every turn, in a way. But if you don't spend it, you can bank up multiple mana. Whereas Coalition Relic, you you can charge it once and bank it up for the next turn. With this thing, you get. I guess it's worse than Relic on turn 1, because Coalition Relic charge gets you 2 mana on the next turn. This thing only gets you 1, but. Going forward, it ends up being slightly better than Relic. And in the meantime, pay 2 life to draw a card. You lose 2 life, draw a card. You can choose both of those. So you can lose 3 life and get mana and cards. And remember, if I haven't said it enough in this video, it's mana and cards, mana and cards. Finally, this thing, for 3 life, you can get a 3/2 colorless shapeshifter with Changeling. In other words, a 3/2 colorless creature that has all creature types, which means you can take advantage of anything that feeds on creature types. Of course, you can also feed your opponent if they have a Priest of Titania. But if they have, say, a Goblin King, and all Goblins get Mountain Walk, you could potentially have a 3/2 colorless Mountain Walker. The fact that it's colorless matters because you can use it to block anything with protection from color, like something equipped, sort of Feast and Famine, sort of Fire and Ice, something like that. And it's also a way to pressure Planeswalkers, and you can eat it with Tevesh Szat if you need to. Instead of making 2/1s, you could, for example, pay 6 life, get a treasure, draw a card, make a 3/2, and then immediately turn that into 2 more cards. So now you've paid 6 life for 3 cards and a mana, which is pretty very acceptable. Of course, you wouldn't want to play 6 life too often, and hire a mercenary is the effect that you do lose the least, use the least, but having an additional option on a card that we already want, these first 2 effects we really want, is totally fine. And if you're low on life, like, or if you've already got Necro or something out, you do have to pick one of these. You would be losing 1 life per turn, like a Bitter Blossom. But a Bitter Blossom that produces treasures is fantastic and well worth it. So I think that card probably will be what the Praetor's Grasp is. Or maybe the Grasp will prove so good that we end up playing this card in addition to the Grasp. And maybe we should even play Grim Tutor. I don't know. I do think that some combination of these cards may ultimately make the cut, though, and this is the one I'm most looking forward to from the next set to go into this deck. But in the meantime, it is Praetor's Grasp, and I have made a video that is tremendously long, so hopefully you enjoyed it. It felt a little tedious. I do apologize greatly for that, and of course for the ugly borders. I hate that. But yeah, I wish that Magic Online was better with the replays. Maybe if we all complain about it, something will happen, but I suspect that they're not going to do anything good with this interface because I believe the focus for them is on the one that plays Arena and Standard, right? The other interface they've got, I think they're kind of letting this one languish. But at any rate, that is all I've got. Hopefully you enjoyed yourself, and I've convinced you that this deck is not only a crazy strong deck, but also a skill testing deck and an interesting one. And as you saw, I'm one of the prime developers along with Brian Weissman of this deck, and I made plenty of mistakes throughout this video. So play and play some more, and I have some more good games for you coming up in the future. But that's all I've got for you now. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.